We grow up surrounded by the Bhagavad Gita. It is the steady background hum of our culture, placed at the center of our spiritual identity. Yet, it remains the text we are least likely to actually read. For many of us, our understanding is built on a patchwork of disjointed quotes, moral stories, and inherited beliefs passed down through generations. We recognize the iconography instantly. We see the bronze chariot and the figures of Krishna and Arjuna, and we treat the narrative as distant mythology. There is a significant distance between absorbing these symbols and applying the effort required to decode the primary source material word for word. If we evaluate our own knowledge honestly, we find that much of what we believe about this philosophy is secondhand, filtered through the interpretations of others rather than personally investigated. The greatest barrier to understanding the text is the comfortable illusion that we already know what it says. Even when we decide to look for ourselves, we hit a practical wall, the sheer volume of Sanatan literature. You open a raw manuscript and find an uncompromising syntax. The grammatical structure and philosophical density are enough to repel a modern beginner immediately. Then you look at the catalog itself. 4 Vedas, over 100 Upanishads, and 18 Puranas. Trying to find a starting point creates instant analysis paralysis. We need a logical pathway through this ocean. If you take the expanse of the Vedas and the deep inquiries of the Upanishads and filter them into a single focal point, you arrive at the Bhagavad Gita. Without a specific, curated starting line, intellectual curiosity collapses under the weight of ancient complexity. The Gita serves as our anchor through its form, a live, urgent dialogue concerning duty and crisis. The battlefield of Kurukshetra represents an ongoing clash of internal forces. It is the visual manifestation of those moments when psychological pressures collide, bringing our lives to a complete standstill. The text forces the reader to confront what it actually takes to make a decision while under absolute, paralyzing pressure. Instead of offering easy answers, it deconstructs morality. It shifts the burden of choice away from divine dictate and onto the individual's own logic. Ultimately, the Gita provides a framework for clarity, built for a mind actively at war with itself. Our foundational rule is simple. We are approaching these verses as students seeking logic. To read the raw verses exactly as they were written, we have to strip away centuries of cultural bias. We will use an active methodology, breaking down context of specific words, debating the philosophical implications, and questioning the apparent contradictions. Our verifiable base for all upcoming translations and analysis will be the standard edition published by Beta Press, Gorakhpur. True intellectual ownership of these texts requires the courage to formulate independent conclusions. By applying this method, we join a tradition of seekers who critically investigated these exact same words. We can test this approach on Chapter 1, Verse 1. The armies are gathered, and war is already certain. Yet King Dhritarashtra asks the messenger, "What did they do?" By asking for a report on a battle that was already joined, the king betrays a specific anxiety. He fears the sacred ground of the battlefield might influence his son's resolve or their claim to the throne. In this single question, we see the first signs of political paranoia. Realizing that every single word carries a deliberate, deep psychological weight completely changes how we read the entire book. There are no gurus here. We are fellow students, learning side by side. I invite you to drop your preconceptions and commit to this systematic daily study with me. We have our starting point. Tomorrow, we begin our intellectual excavation of Chapter 1, Verse 1. The journey into Sanatan philosophy begins with the humility to simply become a beginner.